She was still weak when she heard it. Not a scream. Not a machine. A whisper. Make sure the babies are switched before she fully wakes up. Her heart stopped. For a second, she thought she was dreaming. The private medical suite smelled like antiseptic and expensive perfume. White silk sheets. Gold-trimmed monitors. Ocean waves crashing faintly outside the glass walls of their island mansion. She had just given birth. And her husband was standing beside the doctor, whispering. She must never know, he added quietly. The doctor hesitated. But sir. I said she must never know. Her fingers twitched under the blanket. They thought she was unconscious. She wasn't. And then she heard the words that shattered her entire world. The mistress delivered an hour ago. The timing is perfect. Silence. Then footsteps. Then the sound of a newborn crying, moving farther away. Her baby. Or was it? She wanted to sit up. She wanted to scream. She wanted to grab the four-stand and throw it across the room. But she didn't move. Because the next sentence froze her completely. Take hers away. Dispose of it quietly. Dispose. The word didn't sound real. It echoed in her mind, slow, heavy, impossible. This was the man she built an empire with. The man who held her hand during board meetings. The man who kissed her stomach every night and said, "Our child will inherit everything." Now he was calmly orchestrating a replacement. The mistress's baby will be presented as madam's, the doctor whispered nervously. And the other one? The doctor asked. A pause. Cold. Calculated. It must disappear. Her vision blurred. Not from weakness. From betrayal. The door opened. Soft footsteps approached her bed. She forced her breathing to remain slow. Even. Unaware. A nurse gently placed a baby beside her. Congratulations. The nurse whispered. She turned her head slowly. And looked at the child. Something felt wrong. She had carried this baby for 9 months. She knew the shape of that tiny nose from every ultrasound. He came to her bedside with crocodile tears. You were amazing, he said softly, kissing her forehead. Our baby is perfect. Our baby. She studied his face. No guilt. No fear. Just performance. And in that moment, something inside her broke. Not loudly. Not dramatically. Quietly. She realized something powerful. If she reacted now, they would destroy all evidence. If she confronted him now, she would lose. So instead, she did something unexpected. She reached for his hand, weakly, and smiled. Thank you for staying by my side, she whispered. His shoulders relaxed. The doctor looked relieved. They believed her. They believed she was clueless. But inside her mind, something else was forming. Not rage. Not tears. Strategy. Because if they thought she was weak, they had just made the biggest mistake of their lives. And as the ocean waves crashed against the island cliffs, she made a silent promise. If her child was still breathing somewhere, she would find them. And when she did, no one on that island would survive the consequences. By morning, the island was celebrating. Staff lined the marble hallway. Champagne chilled in silver buckets. Security doubled at the gates. The heir has arrived. That's what the headlines would say. He stood beside her bed, smiling for private photos. She held the baby carefully, studying every detail again. Wrong birthmark. Wrong cry. Wrong energy. But she didn't flinch. Instead, she whispered softly, "She's beautiful." The doctor avoided her eyes. Interesting. Fear always leaks somewhere. Later that afternoon, her husband stepped onto the balcony to take a call. She pretended to sleep. The glass doors were slightly open. Yes, she suspects nothing, he said. A pause. No, the child is already handled. Handled. Her fingers curled into the sheets. But then he added something that didn't sit right. Make sure there's no trace left near the service dock. Service dock? Why there? Why not the medical wing? A detail. Small. But important. She kept her breathing slow. Because something about that sentence told her. The story wasn't over yet. That night, she didn't sneak anywhere. She didn't investigate. She didn't beg for answers. She waited. Because power is patience. Around midnight, there was a soft knock on her bedroom door. Not bold. Not confident. Afraid. "Enter," she said calmly. It was Amora, her personal maid of 7 years. The only staff member who had been with her before the marriage. Amora's hands were shaking. "Madam," her voice cracked. Her husband was asleep in the adjacent lounge. "Perfect. What is it?" she asked gently. Amora fell to her knees. "I'm sorry. I wasn't supposed to interfere." Her heartbeat slowed instantly. Not fast. Slow. Controlled. "Interfere with what?" she asked. Tears streamed down Amora's face. The baby they carried to the dock, it was still crying. Silence filled the room. The air turned heavy. "And?" she asked softly. "I couldn't leave it there." Everything inside her wanted to explode. But she didn't move. "Where is the child?" she whispered. Amora looked up. "Safe." One word. And the world shifted. She dismissed every staff member the next morning. No celebration. No visitors. Her husband assumed it was postpartum exhaustion. Good. Let him underestimate her. When they were alone, she looked at Amora. "No lies," she said calmly. "Show me." Amora returned an hour later, with something wrapped carefully in neutral linen. Not a dramatic reveal. Not screaming music. Just a soft bundle. And when the cloth was pulled back, she saw it. The birthmark. The tiny crescent shape near the left shoulder. The one from the ultrasound. The one she memorized. Her child. Alive. Breathing. Warm. Her knees nearly gave out. But she stood tall. Because crying is weakness when enemies are near. "How long?" she asked quietly. 3 days, Amora whispered. Hidden in the old staff quarters by the supply hill. No one checks there. 3 days. Her baby had been 3 days away from her, while another woman's child slept beside her. Her husband believed he had erased evidence. He hadn't. He had created a weapon. Now the danger changed. It wasn't about finding the baby anymore. It was about keeping the baby hidden. If her husband discovered the child survived, he would try again. And this time he would not fail. So she made a decision. Cold. Precise. "The child stays hidden," she said. Amora's eyes widened. "Madam. If he believes the baby disappeared, he relaxes." She looked toward the balcony where her husband stood making calls. "If he relaxes, he makes mistakes. And mistakes are expensive." She turned back to the other infant sleeping in the luxury crib. The mistress's baby. Innocent. Unaware. This wasn't about harming a child. This was about strategy. She would raise that child publicly. For now. Let the world believe the heir had been secured. Let investors celebrate. Let her husband feel victorious. Because the longer he celebrated, the deeper the fall. At dinner, she leaned against her husband's shoulder. Weak. Loving. Grateful. "I couldn't have done this without you," she murmured. He smiled proudly. "Everything I do is for this family." Family. Interesting word. She placed her hand over his. Softly. "Tomorrow, I want the board meeting postponed." He frowned slightly. "Why?" "I need you home with me." His ego liked that. Of course it did. He cancelled it immediately. That one decision would cost him millions. Because she already knew something he didn't. She owned more shares than he realized. He had been too distracted with his mistress to check. And tomorrow, documents would quietly begin moving. 3 nights later, the island hosted a small private gathering. Investors. Board members. Close allies. She appeared radiant. Recovered. Graceful. The mother of the heir. Her husband stood proudly beside her. The mistress stayed hidden in the background. And somewhere on the quiet edge of the island, her real child slept safely under Mora's watch. She raised her glass. "To trust," she said smoothly. The room applauded. Her husband squeezed her waist. Confident. Unaware. But as she looked across the crowd, her eyes changed. Not broken anymore. Not heartbroken. Sharp. Because now this wasn't about betrayal. It was about domination. And when the truth finally explodes, it will not be emotional. It will be controlled, calculated, public, and irreversible. The next morning, she requested something simple. "Bring me the legacy file," she told her legal assistant over secure line. Not the general company file. The legacy file. The one signed before marriage. The one he believed was symbolic. It wasn't. Years ago, when the empire was expanding, she had inserted a quiet clause. In the event of proven deception that threatens bloodline succession, voting power restructures automatically. He never read that page carefully. He trusted her. Irony is beautiful. By noon, 3 digital signatures were processed. Silent. Legal. Irreversible. He was still the public CEO. But internally, control had begun shifting. And he had no idea. Meanwhile, the mistress grew bold. Too bold. She began spending more time in the West Wing. Laughing louder. Standing closer to him during private dinners. Confidence is dangerous when it's premature. That evening, the mistress approached her directly. "I'm so happy for you," she said sweetly, glancing at the baby in the crib. The audacity. She smiled warmly. "Thank you," she replied calmly. Then she leaned slightly closer. "Tell me, does motherhood feel different the second time?" The mistress froze for half a second. There had been no public record of her pregnancy. Only private arrangements. Fear flickered in her eyes. Good. Let her feel watched. Because she was. Every hallway on that island recorded everything. And copies of certain footage were no longer stored in the main server. They were stored privately. With her. At 3:12 a.m., her husband's phone buzzed. He checked it casually. Then checked again. His expression shifted. "What is it?" she asked softly. "Minor restructuring notice," he muttered. Minor. He didn't understand it yet. Several of his executive privileges had been suspended pending review. Temporary, but symbolic. He made a quick call. No answer. Because the board chair was already under new instruction. Her instruction. She turned slightly in bed, watching him pretend not to panic. He still believed he was in control. But powerful men don't realize they're falling until the ground disappears. And the ground had already begun to move. She requested a closed-door meeting with the board. No husbands. No spouses. Just shareholders. They agreed immediately. Because technically, she held majority. He had forgotten that detail years ago. Inside the glass conference room, she spoke calmly. "I have reason to believe there has been an internal breach involving succession integrity." Corporate language. Clean. Non-emotional. But deadly. She played a short clip. Doc footage. Muted. No audio. Just enough to create doubt. The room went silent. One board member leaned forward. "Are you suggesting?" "I am suggesting," she interrupted gently, "that until further investigation is complete, leadership restructuring is necessary." Votes were cast. Quietly. Unanimously. Temporary removal. Effective immediately. Her husband was no longer acting CEO. And he didn't even know yet. He stormed into the bedroom that evening. "What did you do?" he demanded. Calm. She remained seated near the window, holding the baby. The wrong baby. "I protected the company," she replied smoothly. "You blindsided me." She tilted her head slightly. "Did I?" For the first time, he looked uncertain. Angry, but uncertain. Because somewhere deep inside, he sensed something. Not the full truth, but danger. "You're overreacting," he said sharply. "To what?" she asked. Silence. He couldn't answer. Because admitting it would expose him. He ran a hand through his hair. "This is temporary." She smiled faintly. "Yes," she agreed. "Very temporary." But as he walked away, for the first time since the delivery room, he was no longer relaxed. He was suspicious. And when a guilty man becomes suspicious, he starts digging. Which means he's getting closer to discovering something. Something hidden. Something breathing. And if he finds out too early, everything could collapse. He didn't sleep that night. She knew because she heard him moving through the corridors. Opening doors. Calling security. reviewing logs. Guilt makes men paranoid. By morning, half the staff had been questioned, including Amora. But Amora had been trained well. Calm voice. Steady eyes. No extra words. She was with me all night, she said smoothly when he asked. He searched the medical suite again. The doc. The service records. But there was one place he didn't think to check. The old Supply Hill quarters. Because in his mind, the past had already been erased. That was his first mistake. His second mistake? Underestimating his wife. That afternoon, she did something unexpected. She called for a press gathering. On the island. Global financial media. Industry reporters. He was stunned. Why would you involve the press? He demanded. She looked at him softly. To stabilize investor confidence. Reasonable. Professional. Strategic. He couldn't object without raising suspicion. The invitations went out immediately. Headline teased. Legacy announcement from the island estate. The mistress panicked. This is too much, she whispered to him privately. He reassured her. She knows nothing. But the crack in his voice betrayed him. Because deep down, he wasn't sure anymore. The cameras were live. The ocean shimmered behind the glass hall. Board members seated. Investors watching remotely. She stood at the podium. Elegant. Controlled. Powerful. He stood beside her. Confident smile. Slightly strained. She began calmly. 3 weeks ago, I gave birth. Applause. She continued. But something happened that threatened not just my family, but this empire. The room stilled. She pressed a remote. The doc footage appeared. This time with audio. The whisper. Make sure the babies are switched. His face drained of color. The mistress staggered backward. Gasps filled the hall. She didn't look at him. Not yet. Succession fraud, she said clearly. Conspiracy. The board chair stood. Effective immediately, all executive authority has been permanently revoked. Security stepped forward. Not toward her. Toward him. Public humiliation. Complete. Irreversible. But she wasn't finished. The doors at the back of the hall opened. Amora walked in. Carefully. Holding a small bundle. The room froze. Her husband's eyes widened in horror. No, he whispered. She stepped down from the podium slowly, took the child into her arms, and turned toward the cameras. This, she said steadily, is my heir. The birthmark visible. Clear. Undeniable. DNA documentation displayed on screen. Signed. Verified. The mistress collapsed into a chair. The board members looked disgusted. Investors disconnected from his accounts in real time. And for the first time since that whisper in the delivery room, she allowed herself to breathe fully. Her child had never disappeared. Only his power had. Days later, the island was quieter. He was under investigation. Assets frozen. The mistress gone. The wrong baby had been placed safely with its biological mother. No cruelty. No revenge against innocence. Only correction. She stood on the balcony overlooking the ocean. Her real child sleeping peacefully in her arms. Amora beside her. Do you regret not confronting him that night? Amora asked softly. She watched the waves crash against the cliffs. If I had confronted him, she said calmly, he would have destroyed evidence. A pause. And maybe tried again. She looked down at her child. I didn't need anger. I needed timing. The camera would later capture her taking permanent control of the company. Headlines would call her ruthless, strategic, untouchable. But they would never know the truth. The most powerful move she made was pretending to be powerless. And somewhere in a holding cell far from the island, he finally understood. He thought he replaced her child. But in the end, she replaced him.